Picture this for a second. It's late in the evening, the laptop is open, the to-do list is staring back at you, and somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice says, "Just 5 more minutes of scrolling." Sound familiar? In this video, we're going deep into why your brain fights you so hard when it comes to doing the things you actually want to do, why trying to force yourself through sheer willpower almost never works, and why the real secret to beating laziness isn't some dramatic overnight transformation. It's something much smaller, much gentler, and honestly much more human. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why starting small isn't a compromise. It's the entire strategy, and why rewarding yourself along the way isn't cheating. It's actually how lasting change gets built. Let's get into it. Let's start with an uncomfortable truth. Laziness isn't really a character flaw. It's not that some people are simply born driven while the rest of us are stuck being unmotivated. What's actually happening is a quiet tug-of-war inside your brain between two forces. One part, ancient and instinct-driven, is obsessed with conserving energy and avoiding unnecessary effort. The other part, your rational, forward-thinking mind, knows you should go for that walk, finish that assignment, or clean out that closet. The instinctive part is faster, louder, and honestly a bit of a bully. It evolved to keep your ancestors alive by avoiding wasted energy, and it doesn't care one bit about your long-term goals. So when you feel heavy resistance to starting something, that's not weakness, that's your brain doing exactly what it was built to do. And once you understand that, the goal shifts. You're not trying to become a completely different, more disciplined person overnight. You're trying to work with your brain's wiring instead of constantly fighting it. There's also a concept called decision fatigue, the idea that every choice you make throughout the day, even tiny ones like what to eat for lunch, quietly drains a limited mental resource. By evening, your ability to force yourself into something hard is dramatically weaker than it was in the morning. This is why a workout planned with total confidence at 8 a.m. can feel like scaling a mountain by 6 p.m. It's not that you stopped caring. The daily supply of self-control simply ran dry. Here's where the real shift begins. Instead of relying on willpower, rely on small steps. This is the heart of everything we're talking about today. Beating laziness isn't about one massive burst of motivation. It's about defeating it little by little, one small, almost laughably easy action at a time. Let me tell you about a woman named Claire, who wanted to start running again after years of putting it off. Every time she thought about training for a 5K, her whole body seemed to deflate before she even laced up her shoes. So she stopped thinking about training altogether. Instead, she told herself one rule: put on the running shoes and walk to the end of the driveway. That's it. Some days that's literally all she did. But most days, once she was standing there, already outside, she thought, well, I might as well walk to the corner. The corner became a block, and the block eventually became a mile. Within a few months, she was running 3 miles a few times a week. She didn't defeat laziness in one giant leap. She defeated it in driveway-sized steps. This is what starting small really means. It's not a lesser version of ambition. It's the actual mechanism through which ambition becomes real. If a task feels overwhelming, shrink it down until it feels almost silly how easy it is. Don't tell yourself you're going to write an entire report. Tell yourself you're going to write one sentence. Don't commit to an hour at the gym. Commit to putting on your sneakers and stretching for 2 minutes. This works because most procrastination isn't really about the task itself. It's about the emotional weight of starting. Once you're actually moving, momentum tends to carry you much further than you expected. Your brain resists starting far more fiercely than it resists continuing. There's a concept from chemistry that applies beautifully here: activation energy. The initial push needed to get a reaction going, even if everything afterward flows naturally. Your brain works in a strikingly similar way. The first 60 seconds of beginning a task require an enormous mental push, but once you're past that threshold, everything becomes noticeably easier. This is why reducing friction at the very start matters. If your guitar sits in its case inside a closet, you'll probably never pick it up. But leaning against the wall, in plain sight, you're far more likely to grab it during a quiet moment. Now here's something people often get backwards. Motivation almost never arrives before action. It arrives after. We tend to imagine disciplined, successful people as constantly bursting with inspiration, and that inspiration is simply why they get things done. In reality, motivation is usually the result of taking action, not the cause of it. You start doing something, even reluctantly, even half-heartedly, and a few minutes in, your brain releases a small wave of engagement and reward-related chemistry, which generates the very motivation you were originally waiting to feel. Waiting to feel ready before starting is often a trap. Motivation shows up after you begin, almost never before.
I feel great.
There was a man named Theo who wanted to write a novel for years. He kept waiting for the perfect burst of inspiration, some magical evening where the words would pour out of him. That evening never came, not for lack of talent, but because he was waiting for a feeling before taking any action. Eventually, he gave himself an absurdly small assignment: write exactly 1 paragraph a day, no matter how bad it was. Most days he wrote far more than that, because once he started, momentum carried him forward. A year later, he had a finished manuscript, built entirely from paragraphs he almost didn't feel like writing. Now let's talk about something equally important: encouraging yourself along the way. This part gets skipped constantly, and it might be one of the most underrated tools available. Your brain responds powerfully to reward. If you only celebrate massive milestones, finishing an entire project, reaching a huge goal, you're leaving enormous amounts of potential motivation completely untapped. Acknowledging small progress, finishing 1 page, completing 1 short walk, sending 1 difficult email, reinforces a simple but powerful message inside your brain: doing hard things leads to good feelings. Over time, this rewires how starting feels. Instead of dreading effort, your brain starts quietly associating effort with encouragement and reward. So build in small celebrations. Finished a tough task? Make your favorite coffee exactly the way you like it. Went for that short walk you almost skipped? Put on the song that makes you feel unstoppable for 3 minutes. These moments might sound small, almost silly, but they're doing real psychological work behind the scenes, teaching your brain that pushing through resistance is worth it, not through punishment, but through genuine encouragement. By the way, since you've listened this far, congratulations. That's a small victory too. Go ahead and treat yourself right now. Let's also address the guilt spiral, because this one traps so many people. You procrastinate, you feel guilty, that guilt makes you feel worse, and feeling worse makes you even less likely to start, creating even more guilt. Breaking this cycle often starts with treating yourself the way you'd treat a struggling friend, with patience instead of harsh judgment. Research shows people who respond to setbacks with kindness try again faster than those who criticize themselves harshly. Shame doesn't build discipline, it builds exhaustion, and exhaustion makes future procrastination even more likely. Your environment quietly shapes your behavior too. If your phone sits right next to you buzzing with notifications, you're fighting an uphill battle before you even begin. Small changes, moving your phone to another room, facing your desk away from your bed, can dramatically reduce the pull toward distraction. You're not relying purely on discipline, you're designing a space where the lazy option simply isn't as available. Here's another underrated trick: habit stacking. Attach a brand new behavior directly onto an existing habit you already do automatically. If you already brush your teeth every night without fail, stack a new 2-minute habit right after it, like writing down 1 thing you're grateful for, or doing 10 gentle stretches. Your brain uses the existing habit as a natural trigger, so you're not relying on memory or motivation, just a cue already wired into your day. Sometimes forcing yourself isn't the answer, rest is. Chronic procrastination is sometimes quiet burnout hiding underneath. If you've been pushing relentlessly without real recovery, your brain starts resisting effort as self-protection. The fix isn't more discipline, it's genuine rest and lightening your load until your baseline energy recovers. Accountability helps too, since humans are deeply social creatures. Telling a friend you'll finish something by a certain date, or working quietly alongside someone else, can dramatically increase your follow-through. Letting someone else down often feels more immediately uncomfortable than letting yourself down, and that quirk of human psychology is worth using to your advantage. So let's bring this all together. Laziness isn't a fixed trait. It's a mismatch between ancient brain wiring and modern demands, and that mismatch can be worked with instead of endlessly fought. Defeat it little by little, not all at once. Start impossibly small, because starting small isn't the easy way out. It's the actual mechanism that makes everything else possible. Reduce friction in your environment. Stop waiting for motivation to strike first, since action creates motivation far more often than motivation creates action. Encourage and reward yourself consistently, because celebration isn't indulgent, it's how your brain learns effort is worth repeating. Be gentle with yourself after setbacks, since guilt builds exhaustion, not discipline. Stack new habits onto ones you already have, and recognize when resistance is actually burnout in disguise. Getting things done isn't about becoming a different person overnight. It's about understanding how your brain works, treating yourself with patience, and quietly stacking small, repeatable actions in your favor. Claire didn't become a runner in one dramatic leap. Theo didn't finish his novel in one burst of inspiration. They both got there through small, almost forgettable steps, repeated consistently, encouraged gently along the way. If this gave you even one idea you're going to try this week, let me know in the comments which part stood out the most. And if you've got your own small personal trick for beating procrastination, share it below, because honestly, we're all figuring this out together, one small step at a time. Now go do that one tiny thing you've been putting off, and don't forget to give yourself a little credit once you do. I'll see you in the next video.